From being absolutely wrecked by Omni-Man to being squished by Battle Beast, this poor guy has come close to death many times. That's why today, I'll be going over every time Invincible almost died, starting with one of the most surprising close calls. In Season 3, Episode 2, A Deal with the Devil, Mark disagrees with Cecile hiring D.A. Sinclair and Darkwing, and this takes a very dark turn. Cecile brings out a new Reanimin to ensure he is protected from Mark, because Mark could easily end Cecile if he wanted to.
Protection from me? What are you even talking about?
It's my job to defend the planet from threats. Don't make me put you in that category, Mark.
After destroying the first round of Reanimin, Mark flies to the Guardians HQ where more would show up. As Cecile keeps him stunned with the fish sound, the Reanimin start attacking him. But the scary part is that these Reanimin weren't even trying to kill him. Cecile was holding them back because he didn't want Mark dead. But if Cecile gave the word, there was no chance Mark would have walked away from that fight. Cecile could have brought out hundreds more Reanimin and Mark would have been completely cooked. Even with the Guardians backing him up and taking on a few each, Mark still struggled while he was stunned. But if you thought that was bad, the next time Invincible almost dies makes this fight look like nothing. In Season 3, Episode 1, Who's Laughing Now? All the superheroes are kidnapped by Doc Seismic. Adam, Eve, and Invincible arrive to save them, but things go very wrong. When Doc Seismic communicates with underground creatures to come and help him, they all arrive and overpower Invincible and Eve.
Oh, that wasn't an attack. That's how we talk.
Invincible is impaled and poisoned by one of the bigger bugs before blasted in the head by Seismic's shock device, while Eve gets hit and knocked out. In this moment when Invincible was knocked out, Seismic could have let the bugs have at him and Invincible wouldn't have been able to do anything to stop them. But as Invincible and all the other heroes are about to be crushed to death, Cecile sends in the Reanimin and Darkwing to save them all. If you think getting folded by a glorified geology teacher is bad, just wait until you see what happens when Invincible fights someone who actually wants him dead. But before that, we need to talk about the next one. In Season 2, Episode 1, A Lesson for Your Next Life, Angstrom Levy recruits the Mauler twins. After finding out the Mauler twins are building something for Angstrom Levy, Invincible heads straight to where they are, and right away, things spiral out of control.
Hey, shut it down, or I take it down.
Make us. Wait! Invincible! You don't understand!
Levy warns him to leave, but Mark doesn't listen. So, Levy does the only logical thing and opens a bunch of portals to bring in an army of Mauler clones. They completely overwhelm Invincible and begin beating the shit out of him. Mark gets absolutely stomped. He's outnumbered, outmatched, and the only thing they want to do is end him. But what was about to happen would shock you. Levy panics and says he doesn't want his empire to be built on blood, which makes so much sense. He rips off the device that's pumping knowledge into his brain and it explodes, killing almost everyone inside, including pretty much all of the Maulers. Mark barely survives this, and the only reason he does survive is because of Angstrom Levy. But if you thought an army of Maulers almost crushing him to death was rough, wait until you see what happens when Invincible fights something that shouldn't even exist. In Season 3, Episode 5, It's Not That Simple, Invincible takes on a dragon. Let's just say he's lucky to be alive. Invincible is called to stop an attack on the prison. Mr. Liu has finally had enough waiting around, so he transforms into a massive, city-sized dragon and heads straight for the place. And Invincible shows up thinking it's just another day on the job and some inmates are trying to break out. But he would quickly find out otherwise. The fight starts bad and it only gets worse from there. Liu is wrecking everything. Prisoners are escaping and Mark is getting tossed around like a rag doll. But it would get so much worse when he gets bitten by the dragon. He can't break free, and he's bleeding out fast with nobody to help him. He flies through the dragon's head and thinks he's killed it, yet it gets back up. Luckily, the plot armor saved him and Mr. Liu's actual blood was killed.
But I like cheating.
If Mark wasn't saved by the plot armor, he would have easily ended up getting eaten by this dragon, but the next near-death experience was much closer. In Season 1, Episode 2, Here Goes Nothing, Mark gets his first real taste of what being a superhero is, and unsurprisingly, he almost gets absolutely wrecked. The Flax Sands have begun to invade Earth for the third time. They've already learned from their last two failures and show up with new, stronger tech that stops them from aging rapidly and can't be destroyed easily. As well, their leader comes prepared in a mech suit to stop Invincible, holding a grudge from his last couple attempts to invade. The Flax Sand leader is about to finish off Mark when something unexpected happens. Omni-Man arrives on the scene to help the Guardians and rescue Mark.
Are you okay, Mark?
If you thought almost dying in your second week on the job is rough, wait until you see what happens when Invincible fights someone who doesn't give him a chance to be saved. In Season 2, Episode 7, I'm Not Going Anywhere, Mark runs into one of the most dangerous Viltrumites he's faced. And she doesn't hold back. Anissa finds Mark while he's on a date with Amber. Despite threatening Amber at first, she acts friendly. She offers him a chance to join the Viltrumite Empire and tries to convince him it will be beneficial, as well as telling him it's his duty to take over Earth. But when Mark refuses, he gets cooked. Anissa absolutely demolishes him. She doesn't hold back at all. She beats Mark so badly that he's left coughing up blood with shattered bones and barely able to stand. The scariest part is that she's not even trying to kill him. She still wants him to join the Empire. This was her holding back. But instead, she leaves him broken and bleeding just to prove a point. In Season 2, Episode 4, It's Not That Simple, Mark faces other Viltrumites, excluding his dad, for the very first time. And what happens is one of the most important things in the show. After reuniting with Nolan on Thraxa, Mark gets caught in the middle of a Viltrumite hit squad. 3 of them show up, and they're not here to talk. They're here to wipe out the planet and anyone who gets in their way. Mark tries to protect Nolan's new family, but it's pointless. Lucan shows up and one-shots him with a flick of his finger. That's how it starts. Then, it gets worse. Nolan joins the fight, but it quickly turns into a brutal 2-on-2 battle. Mark takes on Thula, and she absolutely tears him apart using her hair. She's slicing through him like he's not even there. After a motivational talk from his dad, basically telling him not to be a pussy, he gets his head in the game. But it's too late. Thula impales him straight through the stomach. He's bleeding out, barely conscious, and can't even defend himself. Once again, the plot armor is clutch and Nolan saves him. But Lucan comes back at the end and snaps Nolan's spine like it's nothing. If the Viltrumites wanted to finish the job, they could have killed Mark right then and there. However, they still want him to prepare Earth for their arrival. Now, if you thought getting ripped in half by Viltrumite was bad, wait until you see what happens when Mark fights someone who thinks fighting him is unfair. For Mark. In Season 1, Episode 5, That Actually Hurt, Invincible faces off against Machine Head's crew, and it's the first time we see him get completely destroyed. Invincible and the Guardians show up to take down Machine Head. They think it's going to be an easy fight. It isn't. Machine Head's thugs aren't too bad, and they could be handled on their own, but the real problem is Battle Beast. Why Battle Beast is even there is a question for another video. Battle Beast treats Invincible like a warm-up. He breaks his ribs, crushes his spine, and beats him mercilessly. The scariest part was that Battle Beast was clearly not trying that hard. The only reason Mark survives is because Battle Beast thought the fight was boring and left.
This battle is beneath me. There is no honor in killing insects.
Fortunately for him, the GDA team arrives and gets him into surgery. This was by far one of the closest times Mark had been to death, especially because nobody could have saved him if Battle Beast wanted him dead, since even Nolan would have been cooked by him. The next one is by far the closest and nastiest looking near-death experience we've seen. In Season 1, Episode 8, Where I Really Come From, Invincible faces his biggest threat yet. Nolan is forced to reveal the truth to him. He wasn't on Earth to protect it. He was there to conquer it and prepare for the arrival of the Viltrium Empire. To Nolan's surprise, Mark refuses to join him, and what happens next is brutal. Nolan beats Mark half to death. He punches him through buildings, puts him through a train full of people, and literally punches him through a mountain. Mark loses teeth, breaks almost every bone in his body, and he's bleeding so badly it's a miracle he's still alive. Luckily, Mark hits his dad's soft spot when he answers him and he flies off, leaving Earth.
What will you have after 500 years?
I still have you.
Mark could have very well died in that moment, and if Nolan hit him again, he probably would have. It's safe to say that Nolan isn't the best negotiator. But after the last episode of Season 3, this battle looks like nothing. After Conquest arrives on Earth with the goal to conquer it by any means necessary, Mark stands in his way, but things would go wrong very quickly. Conquest began to absolutely demolish Mark, even telling him that he wants to beat up Mark because he enjoys fighting.
I'll tell you no such thing. The truth is, I want you to resist. I'm here because I enjoy this.
As the fight progressed, Mark was taking more and more hits. Not long after it started, Mark wasn't even able to stand. Conquest threw Mark across the ocean and held his head in front of him as he flew through a town. Eve came to help him, but she barely weakened Conquest and he would quickly overpower her. Conquest pinned Mark to the floor, but as he was about to kill him, something unexpected happened. Eve healed herself and shot an atom blast at Conquest, which weakened him and gave Mark the upper hand he needed. Despite taking out Conquest, Mark had injured more than ever and would pass out. This was by far much worse of a beating than when he fought Nolan, and Mark was the closest to death that he's ever been.